a jacked back is impressive and easier to achieve than you think. I'm here to show you not only the best exercises and grips to use, but also how you can progress to maximize your gains. At the end of the video, you'll find out which is better, pull-ups or pull-downs, and exactly how to get the most out of them. Let's get started. The first thing to know is that grip matters. Now, I'm not talking about overhand, neutral, or underhand. Those can be somewhat important too, but I'm referring to grip width. In the fitness industry, we get caught up in majoring in the minors. What I mean by that is I often see people in the gym figuring out the exact grip to use, the widest it could possibly be, try it out for a week or two, then switch to something completely different the third week because they saw somebody online say something differently. Let's clear up some of that confusion with some anatomy, strength training, and common sense 101. When some groundbreaking fitness or nutrition claim comes up that heavily leans one way, it's helpful to take both extremes into consideration, since oftentimes the most practical and ideal answer is somewhere in the middle. Let's take grip width on the lat pull down, for example, comparing the widest grip possible and the most narrow grip possible. Notice the difference in how much my lats are stretched. With a wider grip, my lats aren't stretched out as much. With a narrow grip, my lats are stretched out fairly well. We know typically the more you stretch a muscle, the more growth occurs. With that in mind, it may not be the most ideal to go with the widest grip possible. Another factor to consider is the pulling angle. With my forearms out at an angle, if I were to pull the bar down to my chest, it wouldn't be the best leverage from my back, since my elbows are pulling more in than down, especially from a shortened position. Compare that to a shoulder width grip or even slightly wider, and you'll see my forearms stay straight throughout the entire rep. This ensures I'm pulling straight down efficiently and not using excess energy and the best leverages to do so. As far as which grip to use, overhand, neutral, or underhand, there are some differences, and although I believe are subtle, can make a bit of a difference. You see, the lats have a very strange insertion in which it literally twists right before it attaches into the humerus. This means one of the functions of the lats is internal rotation. So to fully stretch out the lats, we need to go into external rotation. This is where the grip type comes into play. Notice my arm path on the side when I go overhand and about shoulder width. Do you see how my forearms stay in line with my torso? This motion is called adduction, which is also one of the functions of the lats. Now when I take the same grip width but use an underhand grip, my arm path changes to shoulder extension. Again, another function of the lats. So what about a neutral grip? Similar to underhand, this grip forces my arm path into extension rather than adduction. Now if we narrow the grip width, all three of these grips force the arm path into extension as well. So the burning question, which is the best? I honestly don't believe it makes a huge difference, and I personally cycle through both of them. If I had to pick one for the rest of my life, I would probably pick a shoulder width neutral grip. Most people can curl more with a neutral or hammer grip compared to an underhand grip, and this carries over to pulling movements as well. I can see some of you in the comments saying,
but the underhand grip stretches out the lats most, and that'll be most efficient.
Sure, okay, you might be right. Will it make a huge difference? Marginally at best. Besides, the biceps do have a tendency to take over in an underhand grip unless you pull more with your lats instead of your biceps. Notice how my elbows are bending more in the video on the left compared to the video on the right? This takes some of the tension off the lats and shifts it onto the biceps. Not the most ideal. This is a common blunder that people can do even with a neutral grip. So instead of thinking about pulling the bar straight down, think about pulling it down with your elbows, minimizing the amount your biceps contribute. Your biceps will help out a little bit, but you'll quickly find this hits your lats more. Single arm lat stuff is fantastic as one, eventually the double arm lat pull down weight will be so much that it'll be challenging to get into position and stay there for reps. And two, with single arm, you can have more freedom of movement with your torso, stretching out the lats even more. For example, a lateral lean, rotation, etc. Most people forget or simply don't know that the lats attach to the pelvis. Have you ever done lat pull downs and noticed your low back arches? That's because when you raise your arm up, you're stretching them at your humerus or arm bone. If they are tight, your low back has to arch since the lats originate there and have to slacken them to raise your arm overhead some way somehow. We can stretch out the lats even further by rotating towards the same side we have overhead and leaning into that side, as well as taking an underhand grip. This makes for a nasty stretch for the lats. This is super underrated as you aren't fully stretching out the lats with straight up and down movements. Rotating or leaning away makes a huge difference. Pull-ups and chin-ups really are slept on. One, you need hardly any warm-up sets, maybe one if you're doing weighted, and two, you don't run into the problem of the double arm lat pull-downs. No matter how much you weigh, you'll be challenging yourself that much more. Just make sure not to go to failure most of the time. I found that going to failure on pull-ups or chin-ups can wreck the next set and I can't get as many reps. Remember, we don't need to go to failure, but just close to it. Also, this study showed that stopping shy of failure resulted in more strength in the pull-up than going to failure, even with a ton of reps. Strength can help us pull more, and ergo could help to build more muscle down the road. Besides, how many small backs do you see that can pull a lot of weight on pulls and chin-ups? Not too many. Out of all of these factors, volume is key. Volume, volume, volume. The lats can take on a lot of volume, like quite a bit. It's not uncommon for me to do 4, 5, or even 6 sets of a back exercise, and then to do another back exercise for the same number of sets after that. Don't be afraid to superset lat isolation work into your bicep work, or you can do drop sets or mile reps for your bicep work to make up for lost time. Either way, just bump up the volume for your lat exercises. The standard 10 to 20 sets per week recommendation is a good starting place, especially on the upper end of the 20 sets range. Finally, it's time to cheat. No, not on your spouse or the bar exam, maybe in your diet with donuts. What I'm really talking about is your lat exercises. You see, the most important muscle building part of an exercise is the eccentric phase, especially when the muscle is fully stretched. This is a fancy term for the lowering phase. So yeah, doing a lat pull down is cool and all, but it's all about how you put it back where it was. When the weight is bringing your arm up, try your darndest to control that. Think about a string from your elbow to your hip and it being stretched out slowly, like it's about to snap and you're trying not to let it. If you're to go too fast, it will. So if that's the most important part for building muscle, it would make sense to use a little cheating or momentum to get there to grind out those last couple reps. For lat pull downs, it's not a bad idea to use a little lean back while pulling the bar down, especially when you get into heavier weights. Like I said earlier, just make sure to control the weight as your arms go overhead. You can easily knock out another 2 to 3 reps this way compared to using strict technique. This concept can be applied to rows, pull-ups, pullovers, you name it. Now, how to program. If you hadn't caught on already, the most important thing when focusing on growing a certain muscle group is to do it first in the workout for that day, and the lats are no exception. Start each pull or upper body day with a vertical lat movement like lat pull downs, pull-ups and chin-ups, etc. Don't be afraid to go for 4 to 5 sets or more, and to even go into the 6 to 20 rep range. You can have 2 to 3 months where you do an overhand grip, and the next 2 to 3 months where you do a neutral or underhand grip. Or you could even mix it up in the same workout, where you do 6 sets and the first 2 are overhand, next 2 are neutral, and the final 2 are underhand. There's really no wrong way to go about it as long as you give the lats a good stretch when controlling the lowering phase. Hypothetically, the lats will get more stretched out with underhand compared to overhand or neutral, but your biceps also help out more, so that's why I recommend a mix of grips. After the vertical pulling movement, you can do a horizontal pulling movement, and just like we mentioned earlier in the video, you want your width to be narrower so your arms end up by your side when you row. Going out wider like this will stretch out more of your traps and rhomboids, which is fine if that's your goal. It's not the best for lat growth, so we're going to keep things nice and tight. Bonus points if you lean forward during the eccentric phase, as this stretches out your lats at your hips where they originate. Keep in mind this might feel a little uncomfortable and maybe even hurt your low back at first. As you keep doing this, your low back will get stronger, and as long as you're smart with the other programming, you should be okay. I wouldn't do deadlifts or RDLs the day before or after these, as that can be a lot of load on your low back. I'd recommend similar sets and reps for these. 4 to 5 sets for 6 to 20 reps. Then you'll finish the lats off with an isolation movement, such as a cable lat prayer or a lying dumbbell pullover. You may feel these in the triceps a little bit, and that's to be expected, since the triceps help to extend the shoulder, and by this time your lats are probably pretty beat. 2 to 4 sets at 10 to 15 reps should be plenty. Like I said before, you can superset these with your bicep work. So you might superset like cable lat prayers with Bayesian curls or something like that. Here's a sample push-pull legs program you can tweak to your liking. For your push day, you can do whatever. For your pull day, start off with single arm lat pull downs, 4 by 10 to 12 with a neutral grip, or double arm lat pull downs with an overhand, neutral, and underhand grip for 4 sets of 10 to 15 reps. Next, you'll do seated cable rows with lean forward and backward, 4 sets of 10 to 15 with an overhand grip. Then finish it off with cable lat prayers, 3 sets of 10 to 15 reps with an overhand grip. Sprinkle in whatever bicep work you like. For your leg day, you do no deadlifts or RDLs since you did the seated rows the day before. Your second push day, you can do whatever you like. For your second pull day, start off with a weighted pull-ups for 4 sets of 6 to 10 reps, leaving 1 to 2 reps in the tank every set. Then you move on to incline dumbbell rows for 3 to 5 sets of 20 reps with a neutral grip. Lastly, you'll finish off with lying dumbbell lat pullovers for 3 sets of 10 to 15 reps with an overhand grip. Sprinkle in whatever bicep work you like, and your second leg day would be whatever you like. Back training can be as complicated or as simple as you want it to be. Regardless of your stance and grip width or type, if you progressively lift heavier weight, do more volume, and stay consistent with whatever you choose, your lats are guaranteed to grow. Best of luck, and I'll see you in the next one.